What's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome to a Wednesday afternoon and yet another episode of Action Movie Anatomy here on the Popcorn Talk Network. We're freaking pumped! We're talking Cruise! He's in theaters! It's Christmas! Was it good? It doesn't matter! Hang out with us, guys. We'll see you in just 1 second.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Action Movie Anatomy.
Boom!
Oh, yeah. Ah, sounds so good.
Ha 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 ha. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We're back. It's Action Movie Anatomy. It's Wednesday. We're talking action movies. We're talking The Mummy.
We're talking The Mummy with our boy, Mr. Tom Cruise.
TC's in theaters.
It's a little melancholy today.
It's a little bit of a bummer.
Bittersweet.
If you guys are wondering why we took an extra week to cover this movie, it's because it isn't very good. But I'll tell you what, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it because Tom Cruise is the fucking man.
He's the greatest.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is the greatest. He's the greatest action star of all time. We've decided that on this show. So, of course, we're going to talk about The Mummy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about today, guys. Thanks for watching. This is the Popcorn Talk Network, your online broadcast network dedicated to talking pop cultures by the bucketful. Pop culture, not plural.
Pop cultures.
On the internets.
Yeah.
Hey! And we're here to talk movies. So, yeah, guys, we talk action movies here. Those movies adhere to 4 basic rules. 1, the hero always plays by their own rules. 2, the hero and the villain are always the smartest people in the room. 3, the movie is driven by a police, military, political, or mercenary figure. And 4, the movie contains a minimum of 1 explosion. The reason I breezed over those explanations today is because, like, I don't even really know what Cruise's character was in this movie.
Yeah, it's so weird, man. Like, I read a review a while ago, and it was talking about how he just kind of looked lost in the film and confused on camera, and I get it because he's kind of possessed. He doesn't know what's going on, but, like, we were trying to figure out what it was, and Cruise kind of just looks lost in real life on camera.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And it's just one of those weird... It's just weird to watch.
Totally.
You know?
Completely.
But I think it does meet all the rules, does it not? There's an explosion. He plays by his own rules. She plays by her own rules. And is he a mercenary?
He's a military.
Yeah, right. He's military.
He's military.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but driven by, that's the funniest part, is like, he's not really in control of this movie, but he's Tom Cruise, so he's like incapable of being in the movie without like sort of trying to be in control of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's not the most powerful thing in the movie by a long shot. There's a mummy.
Yeah, there's a mummy, absolutely. I mean, even if he... There's spoilers in this, by the way. Even if he becomes the mummy. Yeah, I guess he's not the smartest, right?
No.
He just is, like, surviving.
It's kind of, I think, one of the major issues with the movie is that he's in this role... Like, I kept reading reviews that he was miscast, and I was trying to understand what they meant, because, like, in my mind... You up your value of the movie so much by putting somebody like Tom Cruise in the lead role. There's only a few actors that have the natural movie star charisma that he's got. Like, even if you don't agree with Tom Cruise as an actor or his beliefs, if there's things you don't like, it doesn't change the fact that, like, you put somebody who's that comfortable on camera in your movie, probably this movie is going to be elevated by 20%. And
Absolutely, and I think that he is the best part of this film.
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is. No. I don't. I think that he elevated the film, but I don't think he's the best part.
So my point is, the idea of him being miscast is kind of a misnomer. Watching the movie, I do actually think he was kind of miscast. He's sort of incapable of losing his cruisiness enough to play this character, because this character is not supposed to be the hero or the smartest guy in the room.
Exactly, and like Tom Cruise just is that guy.
Like in Edge of Tomorrow, when he's like a coward at the beginning who's not the hero, he's trying to escape, it works because he starts to become the smartest guy in the room frame by frame.
Exactly, because he's like rolling under the truck and getting killed. It's like those things.
Discover his intelligence. And that's what makes it so satisfying.
Whereas this one, it's like he like gets dumber throughout, because he starts off confident and strong and knowing what he's doing.
Totally.
And then it's just like throughout the next hour and 40 minutes or whatever, he starts to slowly degrade.
Yes. Exactly.
So the next thing we do is usually hop into the trailer. But first, Ben and I had a very exciting day yesterday.
We did.
We really did. And hopefully there's a few new fans out there. We competed in the movie Trivia Schmodown again for the 3rd time.
Yeah, on Collider. It was our third match, and it was a hell of a match. We were playing against
Late to the Party.
What were their names again? Just kidding.
Our good friends Robert and Vanessa, who put up. It was an incredible match, and you guys can find that. It was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. It like getting to just be full heels in that league. It's like one of the most fun things that we get to do, and seeing fans compete who were unfreaking believable. By the way.
Terrifyingly good at movie trivia.
Like, we don't want to give anything away with the match. We just recommend you go watch it. But they're ridiculous, like unbelievable competitors that were. I think they kind of shocked the entire league at how good they are.
For sure, they shocked us. And so, if you guys can, they have a YouTube page. It's at Late to the Party. They do reactions to tons of things out there, trailers and the Schmodown and such. And they're awesome people. And also, we got to thank our Action Army out there that was supporting us for the last couple weeks, especially our boy Clint. And Clint, I'd say your last name, but I will butcher it. So I'll just say Clint L.
It's like
Lajunis. Making the cool video and all the posters and doing the utmost shit talking for us. So it's so greatly appreciated,
You're
guys.
a great shit talker.
And with you are learning from the best. So without further ado, let's hop in the trailer, huh?
Yeah, well, I do want to say though, just quickly, because we didn't plug it. If you guys want to follow along on Twitter, we have been tweeting about all of the Schmodown and the show and everything from the Twitter at AMA Podcast. You can find that there. You can find Andrew and myself at Andrew Ghai.
Yep.
You can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter or Instagram, what have you, and that's where we have been mostly interacting, so go check that out. And then last but not least, Clint is one of the people that is part of this Facebook fan page we have.
Yes.
There's a couple fans started this Facebook fan page recently, and there's like a handful of people get added every single week, and the conversations there are great. There are these long threads talking about all kinds of awesome movies, movies like Rush, which I finally watched, by the way.
And you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed Rush, so thank you for that, Richard Jarvey. I'm a fan of that movie now. And anyway, we're going to get into it, so let's watch the trailer for the show, for the movie, and do the show.
And then I do want to talk about, I got to talk about this, our rules real quick, because we had a question. So John Roca, our buddy, was saying that the first like 30 minutes of this was like excellent. Did you feel that way?
The first 30 is not bad. The first 10 minutes,
I didn't say not bad.
I really didn't like the campiness at the beginning of Cruise, of Cruise being like, I'm thinking. I was like, come on, this is like you're a better actor than this, better writing than this.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know what he means. The first 30 was a lot closer to good.
Yeah, it was a lot closer to what this movie should have been.
And this is a sweet trailer. The trailer got me hyped up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the zero-G sequence. This is cool.
Yeah, like all this looked good.
The comic relief of his buddy I thought was a waste.
It was just such a waste. That was a sweet shot.
Yeah.
Also awesome that Cruise and her were the only two people to not get sick while filming that.
Sick. Awesome.
Of course, Cruise.
She did it like 70 times or something.
It's
I read.
Insane.
Yeah.
I don't like her. I don't like actresses like her.
What do you mean? Generically pretty blondes?
Yeah, with no character, like no depth, just like I'm here filling a role.
Welcome
Yeah, I know.
But I haven't seen Peaky Blinders.
to a new world of gods
And monsters.
and monsters.
I think that's a major part of Hollywood sexism, though. She's just not given a character.
Exactly. And almost no Cruise counterpart is given characters.
Please meet Princess Amunet. She will claim what she has been denied.
Crowe's voice is so epic.
Yeah, like, it's a sweet trailer, and I got hyped for this movie.
But but how hyped were you really? Not like Star Trek hyped, not like
No, well, here's what happened. Truthfully, and we'll get into this in just a minute. In fact, I think we should just get straight into it now, because it's part of my thesis.
Okay, well, actually, then I'm going to jump in front of you. You're going to forget your point?
No, definitely
Okay. There's just a few things that people ask. Sleeper X9 asked, but why is it a rule to always be the smartest guy in the room? I find it's only important to be the best at the end. And Octavio responded with, because the rules only apply to 90s action films. Like, there's a list. Like, he's the best of the best. Top of his class in marksmanship. Went to Harvard, things like that. So... do you want to take this?
Yeah, so a couple things. The one thing, we've done this show so many times that we don't mention or explain as much, is that we made, originally the rules of the show pertain to movies made after 1981, because that's kind of the genre. Andrew and I started this show wanting to do movies from the 90s. It was The Rock, it was Point Break, it was Speed, it was movies like that.
Our favorite movies we'd grown up watching.
Yeah, there was things like that you would see, like you mentioned there, Top of His Class, things like The Hero Qualifier, This is Mike Banning. Yeah. He's Green Beret, Ranger Battalion.
He will move mountains or die trying.
Right.
Yeah.
Things like that show up so consistently in these movies that we wanted to make these rules to reflect those characters, that we could link together most of these movies. The smartest guy in the room thing is like, think about all of those actors that were just like character after character in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Cruise in all the great action movies he's ever been in. He's always the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, and there's this bridge. So you think about Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, right? And then you think about Harrison Ford in The Fugitive.
Right.
And then you think about Russell Crowe in Gladiator. There's 3 very different types of movies, but in every single one, the hero is the smartest guy in the room.
Always. And you think about the icons that we talk about on the show a lot, they've become the icons because, like, Denzel, for instance, we talk about all the time, he's virtually always, his Denzelishness makes him the smartest guy in the room. He always knows a little bit more. He notices the thing the other guy doesn't notice.
Yeah.
It's just something about those great leading men that have that, and not just leading men either, leading women. Like,
oh, totally, absolutely, and you saw that for sure. We covered Wonder Woman last week.
Yeah, I mean, Edge of Tomorrow starts out with Emily Blunt as the smartest guy in the room,
absolutely,
smartest girl in the room. So that's why that rule exists.
Right. The one other thing that is actually, this is just directly for you, is we have a couple people asking about your Fist Pump Film Club on Anchor. They wonder what happened to your countdown, and I figure you want to address that.
Yeah, the top 50. So I have put that station on hold for a minute. It's going to resurface as it is going to link into a show that Andrew and I announced on here, Fist Pump Films Weekly. I'll be doing it at the same time. The top 50 countdown I want to keep doing, and I actually may keep doing. It's just been a couple weeks off. I have another station on Anchor that I do about Magic the Gathering every day.
Nerd.
And believe it or not, it actually takes quite a bit of time to do that. Even though it's not, it seems like it's 10 minutes. You have to think a little bit about what you're going to talk about. So, but the top 50 countdown, I think I was down to like 42, and I'm going to keep going with that. So, thanks if it's anybody who's listening to that.
It's a bunch of our fans.
Yeah. So,
so let's move on to your point. You were getting right into your thesis statement, and for those of you that haven't seen this,
if you guys are watching it or listening for the first time, thesis statement is that point you have about the movie you're going to kind of defend anytime it comes up. So if you're at a party and somebody's like blah 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 this movie, you say, well, let me tell you about this movie, and this is the thing you're excited to talk about,
and you've got lots of evidence backing it.
Yeah,
a lot of support behind it. You've thought about this thoroughly.
So this is my thesis. The Mummy 2017 is the most confused remake ever. So there's been a lot of remakes in Hollywood's history. A ton. A huge number of remakes. We're in a culture now where remakes are almost like the most prominent form of movie making.
Yeah, it's sad.
But the reason that I say this is the most confused remake, and I don't want to call it the worst because I think there's probably been worse remakes. Mm-hmm. When they announced this movie, this Monsters universe launched with The Mummy starring Tom Cruise, everybody had the same reaction. Because this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's 2015. The original Mummy came out 16 years ago. Why are you guys remaking it with Tom Cruise? He was of the correct age to just star in
just be in it originally,
but you didn't cast him. You cast Brendan Fraser, even though Tom Cruise at the time was like one of the biggest stars in the entire world. Maybe in '99 he may have just been the biggest star in the whole world. And then they said, well, it's not really a relaunch, it's a reboot, it's a reimagining, it's part of this other universe, so it's a different thing, but we're still just going to call it The Mummy.
Yeah.
And like the amount of small print that had to go into the explanation every time it came up, people just kept comparing it to the Brendan Fraser Mummy. In the end, there's even throwbacks in the movie to the Brendan Fraser Mummy. There's like 3 or 4 pretty obvious ones.
Yeah.
They didn't stray away from kind of making this a friggin' remake. And you watch
and I hate that they call it a continuation of the second one, which is just like, no, it's not.
No.
Just because the Book of the Dead is still present. Like, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you're talking about when she whacks the guy with the book and it's got the star on it?
Yeah, and it's like a little Easter egg that Russell Crowe has the Book of the Dead. And it's just like, no one cares.
It's these irrelevant throwbacks that link it to a movie that it shouldn't have been linked to. And I think that this... You have to call this a remake. You just have to, because that's the way the world's going to see it. Yeah. There's no point in defending it as anything else, especially if you're going to throw in those obvious throwbacks, like Aminette's face in the sand chasing them through the city, or the book, where you're just like, all right, so this isn't supposed to be a direct remake,
but it's clearly referential to the old film.
So all we're going to be doing is comparing it to the '99 Mummy. It's a different kind of movie, and we're going to be comparing Tom Cruise to Brendan Fraser, which is, again, just not the correct comparison. He's not the same character. We're going for something completely different. So why call it just The Mummy? Call it something else.
Call it something else. And then also, like...
call it The Tomb of Aminette, The Mummy, or something.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. And then, like, we have so many people that have been asking, and this is like the number one question is, who did better, Brendan Fraser or Tom Cruise? It's not even... Brendan Fraser did better because he got a better character that he was better at playing at the time.
Yeah.
And, like, Tom Cruise got this... I don't even know how to describe him.
So my point is, when you asked me at that trailer, how hype are you really? Well, what happened was when they announced that, I had the same reaction that I just explained. I was like, that's a horrible idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, is Tom Cruise over the hill? What's going on? He just had success with Edge of Tomorrow. People seem to be excited about Mena at the time. Now
MI5 was massively successful.
Huge. Like MI6 is going to be great. I was like, I felt like Tom Cruise was back on the up and up. I felt like people were respecting him again as an action star. And then this movie gets announced. When the trailer finally dropped, I was like, all right, you know what?
It's enough.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because that trailer looks pretty sweet. I was like, this looks like it's going to be cool. It looks like it's going to have that big spectacle that I expect from a Tom Cruise movie. And I got kind of, baited into wanting to watch this movie.
For sure.
And I'll tell you, as well as the fact that my viewing experience in Philadelphia yesterday in the afternoon was so obnoxious. So I was in Philadelphia.
Ben and I have realized that we're just like old people now.
I was like an old man. So I was in Philly for a meeting, and I finished it, and I had about 5 hours to kill in the afternoon before I got in the airport. And this was the only time I was going to have to watch this movie. So I bought a ticket for a matinee. I went and sat down, and it must have been like school's off for the afternoon in Philly or something.
Well, it's like summer break now, isn't it?
Oh,
we don't even know because we're so old.
Yeah, it's June. And there was, I'm not going to lie to you, like 30 or 40 kids, like middle school or high school kids in the theaters, talking loudly throughout the movie. And on top of that, the kid behind me had headphones on, blaring EDM, like loud enough, where you can hear someone's headphones loudly 10 feet away.
You're like, how are you not deaf?
They're not even in his ears. It's that idiot that has the headphones here. So he can hear it a little bit while the movie's playing.
Good.
And I'm just like, I want to pile drive you. These kids were terrorizing
These damn kids are getting up, walking out, coming back in. I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, they kept getting up, walking out, coming back in. I was furious. And that was my viewing experience watching this movie. So I was not happy. And
that's one of the greatest things I've ever heard.
I'm old.
I'm old and I'm angry.
Get off my lawn.
Damn kids.
I would keep talking about it, but I haven't been watching my cholesterol and my heart rate's getting up.
I want you to get crazy. So that's your thesis.
What did I say?
I don't even remember.
I blacked out. I was so angry.
So mad.
That was my thesis, yeah.
God, I'm having a really hard time with this, my thesis. So I told you in the car, we were on the phone, and I was telling you that I think one thesis is this is the most over-equipped, underutilized cast in a universe ever.
Oh, because of all the big actors in the extended universe?
Yeah, you've got Depp and Bardem and Crowe and Cruise. So you've got these Academy Award winners and nominees all the way across the board, these legends of film and cinema, and they're all put together in this movie, in this universe. It seems a little lackluster, but I can't say that because it's too early.
Yeah.
Maybe the Jekyll Hyde movie is amazing. Maybe Dr. Frankenstein's monster is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, the Invisible Man.
Yeah, all that. So what I had to do was stick to my thesis that I think this is the worst Cruise role I've ever seen. It is Cruise's worst role ever. Yeah. And the reason why, it's exactly what you said, man. You can't have someone... Look, no one wants to watch Denzel Washington be a bumbling idiot now.
Yeah, right.
He is Denzel. He is Tom Cruise. These are these people that have solidified who they are in the entertainment world, in the movie industry, and as an audience, what you expect out of them in film. And if you are going to be a bumbling idiot, you got to come back around full circle and like become a badass, just like he did in Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, the whole movie is about him avoiding for one thing to happen, and then he realizes at the end that he needs to do it.
Yeah.
So for me, and I hate saying it, and I still think he made the movie better, this is Tom Cruise's worst role, worst decision as an actor, I think, because he choices early on in his career, movies that you might not like. You're an early actor. You just take whatever you can get.
Yeah,
Tom
right.
Cruise can do anything he wants now. So maybe my thesis is this is Tom Cruise's worst decision as a superstar actor.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thesis, man. Like, watching this movie, the thing that I kept finding was, like, I kept asking that question, like, is Tom Cruise bad in this movie? No, Tom Cruise isn't bad in this movie. Did you just spill all over yourself?
I just got so nervous. Someone just said, 2 good-looking men discussing movies and entertaining and informative, subscribed, and then I poured water all over myself.
No one ever says things that nice about us.
Damn it. All right. Anyway, continue, please.
Also, actually, just total non sequitur because I just remembered it. Big shout out to Ken's opening. When his thing, when he's like, what's he say? Where he's like, it's like a come up. He's like, it's like when I order a burrito from Del Taco and they put an extra burrito in the bag.
You just don't know what to do with it.
I love Ken. Anyway.
Ken is hilarious.
So, yeah, but I would agree with you. I believe that this is his worst decision as an actor. The whole movie, I was just like, is Cruise bad? Shut up, you kids!
Yeah.
I was like, no, Cruise isn't bad in this movie.
You never actually said anything, did you?
No, but like the people in the front, I was like sitting in the front seat.
The older people in front of me.
The people in like the front section of the theater were like, shut up, and then the kids would shut up for a second.
That's good.
But I like would not have been able to. It would not have worked.
You wouldn't have been. Yeah. You would have been like an angry old man yelling with your cane, and they would have just ignored you. And
They probably would have beaten me up or something. Probably would have gotten cornered by the high school kids.
Ben can't make it this week. All right. So I know we've been talking a little bit of trash.
Yeah.
I guess we've just been honestly critiquing it.
Yeah, it's just look. This movie is a bit of a fail in some ways, and
we were more let down than I think anyone.
Yeah, it's just a perplexing fail because there were so many things in this movie that added up to make it good, and it ended up just being this kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, so let's get into the next bit of the show, though, guys, which is fist pump moment. It's that moment when you're watching the movie. Something happens, you look around, and you're just like, yes, this is so great.
Yes.
I get to watch the rest of this movie right now. I'm so freaking stoked. And again, movies like this, it's always a funny conversation to have the fist pump conversation. It can be anything. If you're watching or listening for the first time, this can be an explosion, a one-liner, a look from one character to another. The
First
music.
time you've seen someone on screen in a decade, it can be anything that makes you be like, yes, I'm watching this movie.
I think the first time Gary Busey grins and shows his teeth has been my fist pump moment in 2 movies.
I'm pretty sure that's true.
I think it's true. I'm almost positive it was both like Under Siege and another Busey movie.
It was Under Siege and Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, the first time in Under Siege when he first, sir, why do you tolerate that clown?
There's a clown. How many teeth do you have?
Very toothy guy.
All right, so I'm going to jump in with my fist pump moment because it was awesome. Like, it was a legitimate badass fist pump moment for me. And it was because I think that like we've been talking about, even though I was excited for this movie, I didn't think it was a good idea, so I kind of avoided looking and reading about it. I didn't know that Crowe was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, man.
Totally. Yeah.
And I love Russell Crowe. For you guys that know me, Gladiator is my favorite movie of all time, and Maximus is my favorite hero of all time. So I love Russell Crowe, especially Fat Crowe, because him and the Nice Guys, when he shows up with the Nice Guys, is like, it's 10 times better than Kilmer showing up in Deja Vu.
Yeah.
And that's like gold.
Yeah.
So how could it be better?
In the Nice Guys, you're short. You're $7 short.
$7 short.
So incredible.
I love that movie. But it's when I realized it's like he's got the glove on and he kind of starts to change. And his voice changes.
Yeah.
And he starts to drop like this. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited because League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is what I referenced. Even though most people don't like that movie, I did love what they did with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And so, my fist pump was the first time you see Russell Crowe start to change, and like the fact that he's got this demon inside of him. And like, we all know that Crowe's good at being crazy.
Right.
So that was my 100% fist pump moment. I was a little let down later on when it came through, but hands down, I like looked around. I was like, does anyone else care about this as much as I do? No one cared.
League, is that 2002?
You're probably right. I'll look it up.
That sounds right.
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen. He's watching our show right now?
No, he's in that movie.
Oh,
he?
he's in League?
Yeah.
Oh, does he play the main dude?
Yeah, him and Connery, I think.
Oh, really? I thought it was a different guy. I can't remember. I haven't seen that movie
Shane
since.
West, I'm sorry.
Shane West, that's
Shane
what I
West.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it is 2003.
Oh, I was off by a
Good
year.
thing we're not on the Schmodown.
So it's funny that you say that about Crowe because I found myself noticing something very similar, and I hate to use the same moment, but actually this is horrible because
No, I know exactly what you're going to say, and I'm like so excited.
it's after he like fights it off and he injects himself and he's like recovering and he's gotten like really sweaty and and like Fat Sweaty Crowe is just a revelation to me. That was totally my fist pump when I was looking around. I was like, can somebody else appreciate how great this is? Because like, guys, let's be honest for a second. In no way is this like a fat shaming comment because Russell Crowe,
This is almost like celebrating it.
yeah, it's like congratulations for like entering this phase of your career, still being incredibly effective,
Accepting it full-heartedly.
yeah, and like I love it because think about it, guys. Russell Crowe got like 5 or 6 Academy Award nominations between
In like 10 years.
Yeah, he was in like he had like a Best Picture nominated movie every year for like 5 years.
He called himself the greatest actor to ever live, and there was like no one that could argue that point for about a decade.
He was like unreal for a while. He was this leading man. He was super handsome. He was in all these great roles, and he kind of dropped off. And now that he's come back and he like doing the Nice Guys and being that character was like so satisfying. I loved it. So like, it just made me so happy to see like in a monster universe where you're supposed to be like a badass character, like Fat Sweaty Crowe is like what I'm watching. That's the thing.
Yeah, and like honestly, this hits home for you and me a lot because you and I we love food, we love eating, we love drinking, and we also try to be in shape because of our job. And like, it's awesome to watch these actors embrace it and just be like, okay, so I'm kind of overweight now. I'm gonna give you the best overweight Crow you couldn't even imagine. And Kilmer's just as good. Like Kilmer MacGruber is one of my favorite performances ever.
If Crow, what I would find incredible is if a couple years from now Crow gets back in shape for a role. And like this period of like a Fat Sweaty Crow is a short-lived period. That would be the ultimate. That would be the all-time ultimate if he just chose to do it for a while in his life.
And then was just like, all right, I'm gonna get back in shape and crush it. Tarantino movie when I'm 50, 60.
Yeah, but also if this is just what we have out of Crow now, like fine, you were like a super handsome, in shape leading man for like your whole career. So like embrace it, man. Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah.
So
real quick, a couple fist pumps from Joel. We got Cruz revealing his face and then shooting his friend.
Yeah.
And then Jarvis said when Tom yells at Annabelle to wake up. What is that? Wake up.
Oh, at the end when she's dead, probably.
Oh yeah. And he goes like full crazy mummy. That's it for now.
Yeah, it was also weird seeing like Cruz in the desert mask at the beginning.
Yeah.
This movie just was fucking weird.
Felt wrong. Like everything felt weird from the beginning. It just felt wrong.
Cruz running off screen in Mission Impossible 5 in a suit is so much more like what I want than like Tom Cruise is this weird like villainous military guy in a mask.
Yeah, it's like stealing. And you know another fist pump I had, fist pump, it wasn't even a fist pump, it was just like a holy shit moment, was when Benny just stabbed the captain or the colonel on
Not Benny.
Or no, isn't that his name?
I don't think they called him Benny. That would have been a little too much. Right? I think his name was like Seth or like.
I thought it started with a B. Anyway, his buddy.
Yeah.
He just stabs him.
Yeah.
And then stabs him again.
Yeah.
Like you always forget how sharp a knife is, but
Yeah.
like that, I was like, Jesus, like that was gnarly.
Oh yeah, the spiders in the tomb were pretty freaky.
I hate camel spiders. Those are real spiders, by the way.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. They obviously didn't use real ones, but
Yeah.
camel spiders are this big in the jungle. And I mean, in the desert. It's horrifying.
So crazy.
Yeah, look it up. Camel spiders, Iraqi soldiers. You'll see pictures of them holding them. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
anyway, guys, that's Fist Pump Moment. Tweet in with yours at AMA Podcast. You can share your Fist Pump Moment with us or leave it in the chat here. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. Obviously, on the YouTube video, the chat comments won't stay around. So if you're watching this video and it's not live, leave your thoughts, leave your comments. The more of those we get, the higher we are on the YouTube algorithm. People find out about the show, and we keep doing it because it's free. It'll always be free.
Yep.
Let's get into the next bit of the show, guys. Let's do star profiles.
Let's do it.
So Cruise.
Yep.
All right, the last Cruise movie to come out, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, kind of a fail. Movie before that, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, 2016, total hit. That movie was great. And of course, Edge of Tomorrow, 2014, a modern-day classic, I think, by most people's standards. That's probably, man, I love that movie. You know that I love that movie, but I think...
Top 3 Cruise movie for you?
It's top 5.
Yeah.
But that movie has more than, I think, any movie of any big star in the last couple of years. Like that and probably the first John Wick. Are like the movies that when they came out, like not that many people saw them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, definitely. I think that it was super overlooked, and the whole changing of the name with Edge of Tomorrow and then Live, Die, Repeat. It was just like, did I watch it or did I not watch it?
But I've never met someone who doesn't love that movie. And when
Me
you
neither.
read articles talking about Cruise, people refer to it as a modern classic. Like
It is fantastic.
yeah, that movie's just great. So yeah, that's where he's at. You know, his next movie is American Made. That comes out in September. We're really excited for that. He plays Barry Seal, this like drug and gun smuggler for like the DEA, the CIA, Pablo Escobar.
Based off a true story. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. But it doesn't change the fact that, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, 2016, and also The Mummy are both kind of bad movies to come out in 2016 and 2017. So I guess it begs the question for our next segment, which is...
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question to ask. It's something that you and I never thought we'd get to on this show.
Yeah, is Tom Cruise's star fading?
Fading.
Fuck no.
Oh, God, no way it's not fading.
that
Why would
section.
we even waste our time on that? He's a king, okay?
He's a king.
He's a god among men.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know why we even said that. But it does suggest that Cruise has had some bad movies, so why don't we take a minute to celebrate his 5 worst films? In our opinion, the 5 worst post-Risky Business Tom Cruise movies. Because if you're a giant fan and you know Tom Cruise did some movies before 1986 that are just kind of like losing it and all the right moves and like these and Endless Love that you're just like, I don't know, like it's a bad movie. He like wasn't a star yet.
He
It's
wasn't
like
he
some
wasn't
indie movie.
actually Tom Cruise yet. People were very scared. Yeah, and it doesn't even mean that it wasn't a good performance by him. It just wasn't a good movie.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump in with the very first one.
Yeah, number 5, a movie we very recently covered on this show. You can find our review, Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, and the movie's just silly. It's goofy. There's too much John Woo slow-mo. Cruise is awesome. Hunt is great, but it's just not a great film.
It's a pretty bad movie. This movie doesn't make a lot of sense. They're like the stunts and everything are totally preposterous. There's way too many masks in this movie. Like this, the episode we did for this movie is pretty funny, but like him like rock climbing at the beginning, the music. This movie is just absurd, and it's not very satisfying to watch in the way that like a bad Tom Cruise movie could be. This is like just straight up not good. Number 4 movie, we just mentioned it, Jack Reacher Never Go Back.
I mean, he was sweet as Reacher. That's not a question.
He's really
at all.
sweet as Reacher.
He's very good at Reacher. I mean, like Reacher is the character that Cruise, like that's the character he's great at now. You know, he's like a little older, but he's still got his charisma and all that. The movie was just kind of a letdown. The villain kind of fell flat. We also covered that recently on the show as well. Not a bad movie, just not the best.
Yeah, not a great movie, and though Jack Reacher 1 turns out is quite underrated.
It definitely is. That movie's grown on me quite a bit.
Yeah, quite a bit. He's like, it's actually one of Cruise's better modern roles is in Jack Reacher 1. He's got some phenomenal lines.
Yeah, the lines that he said, he's just such a dick. Yeah, it's so good.
He's got some really good ones. Number 3 on the list, we've got Rock of Ages, where he plays Stacey Jacks.
And yeah, so you love him in this.
Well, he's fucking sweet. He's like an 80s hair metal star who like wears ridiculous outfits. It's like such an out of the box role for him, and he's great. The movie's not good.
Right.
This is a bad movie, but it's hair metal and it's Cruise. I've never even seen the whole movie. I've seen chunks of this movie. I remember watching the first 40 minutes once, and then I've seen every Cruise scene in the movie. I've made sure to watch all of them. But it's just universally panned. This movie didn't make any money. It was a flop.
A lot of people are talking about that movie in here.
Rock
Saying
of
like
Ages.
they like it or they didn't like it, but they loved him. They don't know how it made money. Yeah, it's just kind of like an anomaly.
Yeah, Stacey Jacks. It's sweet.
Yeah, Stacey Jacks, duh.
Number 2 on the list is going to be Lions for Lambs.
This was in the dark ages. This was like right after he'd completely disappeared.
Yeah, so what happens for those watching or listening for the first time, we've talked about this a lot, but there's kind of Cruise phases we talk about in his career, because he's one of the only movie stars who's been prominent for 4 decades. He's been around since the early 80s now. And the 05 War of the Worlds success was followed by a press tour, or preceded by a press tour that freaked out a lot of people, where he talked a lot about Scientology.
And Katie Holmes and that whole thing.
The Katie Holmes couch jumping thing came, I believe, that fall.
Yeah.
And that was when the world was kind of like, this is Tom gross, man. Stop. I don't want to see any more of this.
I've never seen people so freaked out by like enthusiasm and like jumping on a couch, but it was definitely weird.
And the Scientology.
Sure.
And the Scientology.
Definitely the Scientology.
And so 2006 came out, and it was Mission Impossible 3, which is our favorite Mission Impossible movie, but people didn't want to watch it. They were like turned off by Cruise, and that movie kind of flopped. So
even though that's our favorite.
Yeah, for the first year in a long time, he didn't have a movie release in 2007. In 2007. So that is followed up with his first release in 2 years, and that is Lions for Lambs. It's the Robert Redford directed political drama with Redford, Meryl Streep, I think Derek Luke.
It was like one of those movies you're like, this is going to be boring as hell, but it might win an Oscar.
Yeah, well, because it came out and it was like, oh, Tom Cruise in a movie, okay. Like at the time, I wasn't like a huge Tom Cruise fan yet. I like didn't understand that I liked the guy.
Yeah, this isn't a thing. Like, guys, for those of you that don't know, Ben and I haven't been this way. I've just started to fall in love with Tom Cruise over the last 2 years since doing this show.
Yeah, mine's been like probably the last 10 years and the last 5 specifically.
But I think we both were in the same boat of kind of like, what's going on with this dude at that time?
Totally. And Lions for Lambs came out. I saw this movie on a date. It was a weird movie to see.
Weird ass date.
And it was a weird date. It was one of those ones where I was going out with a girl who like kind of liked me, that like friend of mine, and like we shouldn't really have been going on a date because nothing was ever going to happen with it.
And you should also never go to movie dates because you don't even ever get to talk.
Yeah,
you know.
And this was not a good movie to see on a date. I like don't remember it very well, but I mean, again, Redford, Streep, Cruise, like
I love like 20 minutes into you're just like.
Yeah, what am I doing?
Shit.
And then I was like, shut up, you kids. Damn. No, this movie, Lions for Lambs, sucked. And it's also, when it came out, is particularly just like no one wanted to watch this. And finally, the worst Tom Cruise movie ever made since Top Gun is
this movie.
I think The Mummy is the worst Tom Cruise movie in the modern era.
Yeah, and it's and again, this movie isn't horrible. I definitely think it got way, and we'll get into it when we get into reviews. I think it got way harsher criticism than it deserved. But yeah, I think it's the worst thing he's done in the last 20 years, 30 years.
I would agree. So that is the top 5 worst Tom Cruise movies since 1986. If you guys disagree with us, if you particularly love Mission Impossible 2, or you think Rock of Ages is a classic, or you think that one of these other movies like Night and Day is really horrible.
Or Legend, yeah.
Tweet. That's, I think, before, I think. I think it's 85.
Did we say post-Risky?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we said post Top Gun. 86.
That's I knew something was wrong.
So anyway, guys, tweet in, let us know your thoughts. Let's get into Sofia Boutella's career.
Fascinating career. I put Atomic Blonde on here because it was listed before on her IMDb, and it's coming up, and we're going to cover it on the show in about a month. And it just looks so great.
It looks so epic.
But her career is fascinating to me. So she was, she's going to be in Atomic Blonde this year, along as The Mummy, as we know. Star Trek Beyond in 2016, and Jet Trash in 2016.
Okay.
And then, of course, The Kingsmen before that was kind of like the reason that she got this role was because she spoke very little in that film, and she communicated so much with her eyes.
Yeah, she broke out. She has like the knife feet. She's sweet.
Yeah, I love Sofia Boutella. I think she's very talented.
Yeah.
I think that she's very beautiful. And she looks exactly like Kaylee. Did you notice that?
Yeah, a little bit.
She looks exactly like our friend. Anyway, my point is with her, I think this movie suffered a lot by, and we're going to get into it right after this with production development. I think it suffered a lot by kind of cutting her character. Like having her on screen as much as she was great, but I think she needed like at least 33% more dialogue, because I think she's very talented, and I think she was the best part of this movie. Her or Crowe.
I agree. They're both much better than Cruise's part, and much better than
that girl, the lady. Yeah, I know. It's
smoking
the same
hot.
thing. Yeah.
She's not given a role that had any significance.
No. I think the greatest thing, if I had to just pick the great things about this film, I think her career is already skyrocketing. I think that this movie, even though it wasn't good, is going to push it to the next level.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's a good look for her. She was awesome. She was scary.
She was sexy.
Yeah, she just fit the bill really well with this character.
Hi, Mom. She's watching. I forgot to.
Hi, Supak. She's great. So I agree. I think the only place to go for her is up right now, and I think you're right that the failure of this movie in a lot of ways is not going to affect her. So
moving into production development, this was a really interesting thing, and we're going to get, pardon me, right into our writers. But this was released by Variety, saying it was shortly after the film was released. Variety reported that Cruise had excessive control over the film and firm control of nearly every aspect of production and post-production. Normally we'd be excited about this, including rewriting the script and editing to his specifications, telling Kurtzman how to direct on set, and enlarging his role while downplaying Boutella's. Universally contractually guaranteed Cruise control of most aspects of the project, from script approval to post-production decisions. I think that this was bad. I think this is not. I know that Tom Cruise is a very successful producer on a lot of his own films, and I know that he has a lot of say in everything that he does. But this isn't a Tom Cruise movie. This isn't a Tom Cruise role, and this isn't a Tom Cruise production. You need to fill a role this time, bro. And you're already going to have a hard enough time acting wise to fill this role because it's not who you are. So act.
Yeah.
You're a great actor. Act.
Yep.
Actually do it. And he didn't do that this time. I think he was too busy, caught up in all this other BS, and it's a total bummer to see this, but your actor should be never telling your director how to direct on set.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. So a couple things about this. First of all, this was after the film opened and it was tanking. So I think there's some part of this that I read this and I go, okay, how much of this is the studios, basically getting this written to make themselves look better and dump it on Cruise. Mm-hmm. I don't doubt that Cruise had excessive control of the film.
No, because he does on everything. We've learned that.
Yeah, and usually he's listed as a producer. He's not a producer on this film. I don't really know. I don't know what would have made this movie better. I'm not really sure what would have improved it. I don't feel like this movie's a good idea, and I don't think Tom Cruise being in it is a particularly good idea. So I don't think that him having more or less control actually makes the movie that much worse, but it's an interesting narrative for the studios to put forward, because it's if that happens and this movie's a success, everybody's happy, and everybody's happy that he did. So
it's definitely damned if you do, damned if you don't.
He's the most successful movie star of all time, and he's produced half his own movies. So if I'm in a movie, if I'm directing a movie, if I'm anywhere involved in a movie, and you have a big budget summer tentpole like this, and the star is Tom Cruise, and he wants to do everything, I'm going to roll the dice on it.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, the dude has more experience on set than almost anyone at this point, and especially everyone on that set. Someone's saying in here that Joel, our buddy Joel Hammond, is saying that he was reading that he had more control over the movie because the director was in over his head and he was more so jumping in to help him out, which does make sense because that's something he has done in the past.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Alex Kurtzman. So Kurtzman is best known for having worked with Robert Orci for years. He's the guy, that team is the team that brought you the script for the first Transformers movie. They wrote Mission Impossible 3. They did writing for Alias. They worked heavily with J.J. Abrams, the first Star Trek film, the second Star Trek film. They've continued to work, but Kurtzman has split off on his own a little bit. This is only his second directed film, and his first directed film, it's People Like Us. It's the Chris Pine movie. Yeah. Remember that? With Elizabeth Banks from like 2012, and it is a family drama. It's like a much simpler movie to direct than this. So I wouldn't be that surprised if Alex Kurtzman was a little bit in over his head directing a movie of this magnitude, and that's why Cruise stepped in. But again, it's not a good look for Cruise. We've seen like that hyper intense controlling narrative about Cruise before, so I'm not going to doubt it. But again, I don't think you can blame him necessarily when like people I've talked to before this movie came out were just like, well, it's directed by Alex Kurtzman. Like, I don't know what we're going to get.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And again, like what we've been saying, Cruise has had executive control over most everything he's worked on for the last 20 years almost. So it's like, it's not his fault. It's not solely his fault, but it is interesting to see Universal try to throw him under the bus like that.
Completely. So that's the director. That's Alex Kurtzman. The writers on this film, there's 5 listed writers. You have David Koepp, Christopher McQuarrie, Dylan Kussman, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet.
Yeah, and Koepp is kind of like the heavy hitter here. You know, he's an American screenwriter and director. He's the fifth most successful screenwriter of all time, with a $2.3 billion gross in the box office, which is insane.
Yeah.
He directed Stir of Echoes, Mordecai, and Secret Window.
Yeah, he's not much of a director.
He's a big Johnny Depp fan, apparently.
But I mean, as a writer, he wrote Jurassic 1, Lost World, Mission Impossible, Indiana Jones, Temple of the Crystal Skulls, Spider-Man, War of the Worlds. Like, he's a big time writer.
And
this guy
currently working on the next Indiana Jones film. Like, he's no one to be trifled with in the writing business.
Yeah. So he's I would say the top billing guy. Christopher McQuarrie, though, is another huge name involved in this as a writer. McQuarrie originally most famous for having written The Usual Suspects. That's the script that put him on the map. But he's written a bunch of other stuff, including Valkyrie, Mission Impossible, Mission Impossible 5. He wrote Rogue Nation, Jack Reacher. He is going to be writing and directing Mission Impossible 6. He's very successful. Christopher McQuarrie has proven himself to be very successful.
Yeah, and he's definitely a guy that like I'm happy to have him around as a writer or director.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cruise probably brings him on because he's worked with him before and he has a lot of faith in him. Aside from that, you have Dylan Kussman and Jenny Lumet, who both are a little bit smaller names. Kussman wrote 2008's Rachel Getting Married, where that's... Yes, wait. No, that's
I
not
know
right.
that movie.
Rachel Getting Married?
Yeah.
That's the one with Anne Hathaway?
Right.
Yes. No, Koosman didn't write that. That's Lumet wrote that. So anyway, yes, long story short, Jenny Lumet wrote Rachel Gonna Marry. That was her only produced screenplay, and Koosman has basically no credits. This was like his first major credit. So
moving on to producers, it's a
big list. You have Sean Daniel, who is the big producer who worked on all of the previous Mummy films. He comes over to work on it. You have Chris Morgan, who is smaller. He's like a pretty known writer, and then the films that he wrote were like Cellular, Van Helsing. He wrote Fast and Furious 3 through 7, 3 through 8. He's written all of the Fast and Furious movies since the third one.
Jesus.
And now he's been producing since 2010. But that's largely because of the success of the Fast movies. He's just been producing those.
So this is where we get into the really interesting stuff with critical and box office reception. As we were speaking, Universal is the studio that backed this. Cost $125 million to make, which is actually kind of reasonable. It's not bad. It was released 2 weeks ago on June 9th, or last week on June 9th, 2017. It grossed $57 million domestically with an additional 236 worldwide for a grand total of about $300 million. We're at like the low 290s, 293 million. Opening weekend, it was number 2 at 31 million behind Wonder Woman at 58 million in its second week. I think we all knew that was going to happen. Thank God it didn't open the same weekend. That would have just been suicide. But the fact that this movie still made almost $300 million is just it speaks volumes. I know. I don't know if you guys watch Unproduced Table Read. It's another show that I do, but I'm on that show with Roxy Stryer and Mike Kalinowski, and Roxy and Mike have had this ongoing battle, and you and I have discussed this a lot. Roxy thinks The Rock is the greatest movie star in the world, and the three of us think the biggest. Yeah, not greatest, excuse me, biggest movie star specifically in the world, and the three of us believe Tom Cruise is the biggest movie star in the world. This speaks volumes to that because, like, first of all, Tom Cruise is never billed with anyone else.
Nope.
It's never Tom Cruise and. It's just Tom Cruise in The Mummy.
He's on the billboard. It says Tom Cruise, The Mummy.
Doesn't matter if Russell Crowe is an Academy Award winner and he's in it. He's not mentioned.
Yeah.
And the movie still makes $300 million. I mean, how'd Baywatch do? You know, like, these are the kind of things you got to put in, you know, in that conversation. So the fact that this movie still made $300 million, moving on to critical, it's got a 5.8 on I.M.D.B., which I think is very fair.
That's about right. I think
almost
that's
a little high.
Yeah.
But then Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 15 by all critics, a 7 by top, and a 43 by audience, which is, I mean, those are some of the, that's worse than Demolition Man.
I mean, it's an aggregate score that it's not, people don't rate the movie.
If they don't give it a score, they just give it a yes or a no.
Yeah, and so that's a large number of people thought this movie wasn't good, is what that turns out. I mean, people think it's, you know, worse than 50%, which is why it gets that low score. I can't argue. If I had to review this movie as a critic, if I wasn't the biggest Tom Cruise fan and I was just watching this movie to watch this movie, I would give it a rotten rating. That's what I would do. I would not certify this movie fresh.
Absolutely. Really quick, Unproduced Table Reads you can catch on the Popcorn Talk Network on Fridays. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just a bummer.
I don't really know what else to say about it.
It is what it is. Yeah. I mean, look, the idea that the world has some narrative going on right now that Tom Cruise is fading because he had a movie that didn't make that much money. First of all, the movie's going to make $300 million.
It's a lot of money.
Second of all, who cares? Like, when you have the kind of box office cred and success that he's had for as long as he has, it would take 5 years of this really tanking for the next 5 years.
Or you have to do something incredibly crazy again.
Yeah. And that's just, I don't see that happening. I think, like, just the success of the Mission Impossible franchise alone is keeping him in business. And, you know, if American Made is what it looks like it's going to be, I think that's going to save his credibility in a lot of ways. But I do have to say, watching this movie, the thing I kept thinking the whole time was just like, I miss actor Tom Cruise.
Yeah, me too. This is just Tom Cruise, the person now.
I just miss, you know, Denzel takes a minute off and he goes and he does Flight or he directs Fences, even though he, you know, does 10 years of icon work. It's like, Tom Cruise, I just want to see you. And American Made looks like it's closer to that. But it's like, think about the roles that he's most loved for in a lot of ways.
That's such an interesting point that I think I was trying, when you and I were talking, I was trying to figure out what it was. And I think you're 100% right in the sense of just like, that's what it was watching it. I miss you. I miss you being an actor, man. You're such a great actor.
Right. It's like
I love Ethan Hunt, but that's a caricature now.
Yeah, it's like think about Jerry Maguire and think about like the roles that people liked. Magnolia, like even Collateral, which is like is closer to an action role, but it's like an interesting action role.
Yeah, and that's like when you go back and you watch all these movies, you know, Collateral and Risky Business, Magnolia, even Eyes Wide Shut and Vanilla Sky, you're just like, you're a different person.
The Last Friggin' Samurai is a great movie.
So good.
Even like Mission Impossible 3, he has like real scenes.
Incredible acting scenes.
Yeah, and like so that movie, like this just made me feel like either nobody's being honest with him or he is not interested. But something's missing because like
interesting.
What he is capable of doing as an actor is quite possibly the most impressive thing that any actor in the history of movies has done, which is be the highest billed movie star, most successful movie star ever, but also get nominated for Oscars. Yeah. And he can be taken seriously doing both, and he just doesn't.
And he can jump back and forth between the two.
Yeah, I just wonder if we're in a world where he would still be able to. He would need a script and the willingness to like let his guard down kind of and make himself look like an idiot. Like that's the thing about those 90s roles is that he did Eyes Wide Shut, he did Magnolia. He was willing to look like a bad guy, like to look like gross. Like Frank T.J. Mackey in Magnolia.
It's disgusting.
It's a gross
and he's
character.
An incredible character.
Yeah.
So we're having fans ask, like, what do we think about Top Gun 2?
I want nothing to do with it.
I want nothing to do with it. I don't want it to happen, and I think it's going to be a bomb.
Yeah, I think...
You lost Tony Scott.
Yeah, I don't... I just, like, don't want to watch that movie. Like, I don't need to see another reboot or another sequel. Even the Edge of Tomorrow sequel is one of those ones where it's like, dude, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because like you're my
the first
guy.
one's so good and you're my guy, yeah.
But like, how would we really expect the sequel to that movie is going to be good? The whole gimmick of the movie can't be repeated.
No, it can't. It's not. No, nothing about it can be repeated. All the things that were great about it are not great anymore in cinema. They'd just be very weird and like almost, and it'd be homoerotic and uncomfortable almost. Like the things that are like so fun to watch about the old Top Gun.
Oh, Top Gun,
yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's just late. It's just too late.
Well, we'll cross our fingers because we have all of the interest in the world in Tom Cruise continuing to be the biggest movie star in the world. Let's get into the next part of the show, guys. And this is Favorite Line. Real simple. Share your favorite lines in the chat. Tweet at us. Let us know. And the best place probably to share this sort of thing is the Action Movie Anatomy fan page on Facebook.
Which we just had a couple more people join during this episode.
Yeah, which is a blast. And that's been a really fun conversation. The threads there get really long. People get like really in depth about their, you mentioned the top 50 movies thing. And on Anchor, that was a fun thing I was doing where I was counting down my 50 favorite films of all time in reverse order, and I had a lot of listeners get in on that, listing their 50 favorites.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of them did it on the page for a while too.
Exactly, so that's a fun place to have conversations. Anyway, let's get into Favorite Line. I'll just jump in first. I love when he basically he's talking to Annabelle Wallis. Is that her name?
Yeah, I think
Wallis.
Yeah. How did you just do that? Didn't you forget it earlier?
Yeah, but it came to me. And
Shut up, kids!
And he's talking to her, and she's like, the writing on the side of she's like, the blah, blah, and he's like, listen, I'm not interested in your technical jargon. And he's like,
the box in the hole in the ground with a thing inside of it.
The box, the hole in the ground, and the thing inside it.
I love that line.
Yeah, it was just like, it was a cruise for a second. It was funny, it was good, it was correctly delivered. It made me laugh. I was like, that's
totally. And in that moment, you would be like, I don't care. It was real.
Yeah.
It was real. That's why. And my favorite line is the same thing. Let's see if we got any here in the chat. I thought there was a second one. God damn it, Joel. That's my line. I thought there was a second one because she gives this like heartfelt speech about him and how great he is and how there's good inside and how he sacrificed himself and gave her the parachute without thinking at all. And I just love it because in his mind the whole time, it's not charismatic. It's not supposed to be funny.
No.
Even though it kind of is. But it's just like, I thought there was another one.
Yeah.
I'm not what you think I am.
Right.
I'm not a good person.
Yeah.
And like, I just thought that was it was just very well delivered and very well written. I like that line a lot.
Yeah, completely. Though, interesting enough, once again, Tom Cruise has transcended sexuality. They loosely talk about sleeping together. We never even see them kiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So weird.
Does he kiss Rebecca Ferguson? They don't, do they?
I don't think they ever kiss.
It's so weird. I mean, that's another thing that, like, it's a rule that we've talked about for Fist Pump is that, like, Tom Cruise has transcended sexuality. When's the last time you saw Tom Cruise actually in a believable sexual relationship on camera, whether there's tension or it's just like, I mean, if it's night and day, then that's rough.
It's alluded to, man. He's asexual.
He's asexual. Part of him's just going to fall off and become a new thing one day.
In movies, he's asexual.
Yes.
Who knows what he is in real life?
So this whole thing, this whole dark universe, Marvel universe, DCU, how many universes are there now?
Oh, yeah. So this is a conversation you and I started having yesterday, and I think this is interesting because, now you have Kong universe, and you have Marvel, you have DC. Like you said, they're all starting to connect. Everybody wants to sell this IP that they can come out with one movie, but it's going to link to 4 more. Yeah. King Arthur wanted to do 6 movies. So it's not like the old days where you make a movie, you see if it's good, and then from there you figure it out. It's like everybody wants to put into place the structure to make a whole universe so that their movies can make $4 billion or something. And it doesn't usually work to make 7 sequels.
No, it doesn't. So you and I have each come up with 2 of our own here.
Yeah.
And I'll just start off with my 2, and then you can take yours because your last one is brilliant. I love it.
Thank you.
So the first one that I put in was because I was such a huge computer nerd growing up. I loved StarCraft.
Yeah.
I loved playing StarCraft. I was an professional World of Warcraft player. For all of you that did not know that was my life for a while.
Yeah.
So with the Warcraft movie coming out, even though it was not good, I wish it was. It would have been so sweet to build a Warcraft versus StarCraft world because that was alluded to in the games.
It made a lot of money worldwide. I mean, that movie still might get a sequel, I think.
Yeah, I think I think you're right, and I think that if the sequel does well enough, like I would love to see a StarCraft versus Warcraft world. We can all relate to it. We all grew up in that time, and if they wait another, maybe even like 6 to 10 years, it'll be too late.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
The other one I have is we've got this brilliant universe that we've started to talk about on our show with the Equalizers, the John Wicks, the Reachers of the world.
Taken,
and
Atomic
the Taken,
Blonde.
yeah, Atomic Blonde, like all these one-man armies again, just like they used to do with like Rambo and stuff, but it's different now. So I would love to see the John Wick universe, I'm just going to call it that,
Yeah.
of all these
Yeah.
solo heroes go head-to-head against the Expendables universe. And I want the Expendables to like become bad for some reason, or
Sure.
like become power hungry or crazy, because like we all know that, look, Jet Li, Jason Statham, Sly, and Arnold are all great at playing villains.
Right.
So's Dolph, so's Snipes. Like they are all great at playing villains.
Yeah, it's
How
true.
sweet would it be to see this awesome group of heroes go up against this legendary group of villains?
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that.
It'd be sick. Yeah, I was thinking like you could kind of come up with a way to make all of them connect in some way. Like there's a
For
way
sure.
to do it.
There's
Like,
enough history in film. I bet you could pull clips from movies and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be sweet. I think it would be awesome. I like that universe a lot. So the two that I'm going to pitch, one is kind of the same fantasy universe, and that's going to be a Magic the Gathering universe. So I mentioned, guys, that I do a podcast called The Masters of Modern on Collected.company about Magic the Gathering every week. I've done that for a couple years, and there has been Magic movies in discussion for years now. Like it's been a thing.
Yeah, because it's been a phenomenon for ever.
25 years.
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones writers were involved for a while. There's been lots of scripts. The property's been on the table forever. And I think how you would do it correctly, I'm not sure. Because the domestic failure of Warcraft, and Warcraft is a bigger and more popular property, makes me think that it's harder to do than I realize. However, on the other hand, I think that Magic could do it in a smarter way. Because the fact that Magic is a card game, there are all kinds of different options and ways you could go with this that are more reflective of like those kind of campy 80s things where like the kid gets sucked into the video game.
Well, it'd be like a sweet like horror adventure almost, because Magic, as a kid, one of the most fascinating things for me when playing it was like the description of the cards.
Yeah.
Not what they did, but the little italicized writing underneath that
right.
kind of gave its history.
flavor
I was always
text.
like, oh god, that's so cool.
And there's great story. Magic, the history and the story is really cool. They've done a great job with that, especially in the last 10 years. So I do think that there's a lot of different places you could take this. And if you did it the right way, I think that the Magic community would watch this. I think well, a lot of people have talked about this, but I think actually a TV series is the more realistic option for this. If Netflix was to do a series or something. So we'll see, but I do think that would be a great one. My other idea...
This should get picked up by ESPN like now.
Yeah, so I think you could do an NBA Golden Age universe biopic universe, where you would start with basically the Magic Johnson biopic, a dramatized biopic of Magic Johnson's up and coming career. That's where you start, because everybody loves Magic.
Everyone loves Magic.
He's like the most likable player ever to live. So you follow that up with basically a sequel that is the rise of, it's like Larry Bird is his big rival, and you make the Bird movie, and that's probably a smaller movie, but if you have the success of the Magic movie, maybe Magic Johnson movie, not Gathering, those things kind of cross over. And what gets really interesting is the third movie starts to talk about, Jordan came to the league in '83. So by the time Jordan is winning scoring titles and he's like struggling to get past these guys, it's the mid '80s. That's the third movie, and then I think your fourth, fifth, and sixth films can really start to talk about
The Iversons, maybe.
I think that's later, because I think you would want to end.
Oh, you want to keep doing the 80s?
Yeah, I think you'd end it because you'd want to keep actors at the same age. You'd have Jordan's big run. You'd have a whole movie dedicated to Jordan having to get past the Pistons, and at that point, Magic gets AIDS, so that's a whole other story. And then when Jordan finally retires in 1998, when he comes back from retirement, I think there's just like a really fun. There's a fun universe here. You could make all of these movies,
dude, for sure. Especially because like 60 for 60 is already so like such a big
30 for 30.
30 for 30. 30 for 30. 30 for 30 is such a big show, and like we already care about these. We already love and idolize these players for years, decades, generations. Like. And then you've got the new movies coming out with Straight Outta Compton, and then All Eyes on Me. It's like we all want to know, like, this is the same time, except for that's the hip hop world. What's going on in the sports world? Yeah,
I think that you honestly could have F. Gary Gray direct the first one. You could have him direct the Magic movie, and I think that would be great. So I would watch the shit out of these. Even if there's only 3 of them, 3 or 4 movies. I think you could probably honestly get closer to 6 movies, but. Yeah, if done correctly, I think a biopic universe is not something that we have seen before.
No, and it'd be a nice new twist on the universe.
Yeah,
is out there. All right, so moving on to, that's basically it, man. We've just got
Which of the 3 categories?
Yeah.
There's 3 action movie categories, guys. There's totally ridiculous, totally legitimate, and ridiculously legitimate. So that's basically like totally ridiculous. Face Off, Con Air, Demolition Man. Yeah, really silly movies. They're very laughable. They're still awesome, but they're very laughable. Totally legitimate are movies like, The Fugitive and Lone Survivor and Inception, movies that really hold together extremely well. Even
By
like
story and acting.
Yeah, even like Wonder Woman, it's just like a big action movie, but it still holds together really well. And then finally, you have ridiculously legitimate, which that's like The Rock and Point Break and Predator. And,
a lot of the great classics fall in there.
Yeah, they're silly, but they're held together by usually at least one really compelling performance or character, something that makes them stand out and special, and not just kind of laughable action movies. And for me, unfortunately, this movie's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I completely agree, man.
There's nothing about this movie that is like... There's no element of this movie that when it's happening, I'm like, oh, man, if you just gave me more of that, this movie would have worked. It's just like, that's a bad lead character played by an actor that doesn't fit your bad lead character.
You've got useless comic relief that is so forced in the film. You've got a incredible actress who you've silenced. You've got another great actress who you've given no character to.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And it's basically a useless setup to a universe that I'm interested in what happens with, but you didn't make me interested to watch it.
Yeah, the only reason I care about this universe at all has nothing to do with this film.
Like that ending, we didn't even talk about like that ending 2 minutes of like Cruise having resurrected his buddy,
being back out in the desert.
And he's in the desert. He's like, "Let's go for an adventure." I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, like what? This is a joke.
Yeah,
this is like the end of National Treasure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it was just like trying to be an adventure movie, and like, I know Cruise in an interview he'd say like, I'm interested in making a fun movie, and I'm just really excited about all these characters, and and you're just like, I know you are because you watch monster movies growing up, and that's what you want to make, but like, this is a bad decision you made.
Here's the other thing that like. When he smashes the stone and it immediately cracks,
right,
and then he smashes it again and it breaks, but our fans have been saying this the whole episode, and it's one of those things I try not to talk about, but it's like you can't not address it. Look, if the thing's that easy to break, just break it. Right. Don't bury it with a Crusader, just break the damn thing.
Yeah.
Originally.
Totally.
So, that was just one thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that leaves us with one thing.
Yeah, it's just one last thing, and it's called The Pitch. Yeah, guys. So we're pitching a movie next week, and I think this is going to be the first in a series of almost entirely new movies we're doing this summer, because this summer and fall is just packed with movies we want to talk about. And this is going to be 2007's Transformers.
Yes.
Yes.
The original. It's so good. Maybe Michael Bay's greatest.
No, The Rock.
Yeah, I know.
I love the
Rock
first Transformers. Shia LaBeouf, who, by the way, we both have
a weird adoration for.
We love Shia, and this was the big Shia LaBeouf breakout movie. He had been in Holes, he had been somebody that people knew who he was, but this was the giant blockbuster that everybody watched. That was like, oh, this guy's he's that next star.
Yeah, he was perfectly cast. Megan Fox was incredibly gorgeous. Like the special effects at the time was mind-blowing.
It did so many things right. They used Peter Cullen's voice for Optimus Prime, so us old Transformers fans really like, they pulled lines from the animated movie. This movie is just generally sweet. There's a great Goo Goo Dolls song in the soundtrack that I love.
It's just really good. It's just a really awesome movie, and it's one of the few films that Michael Bay did other than The Rock that you are like truly excited to watch and talk about. So.
Yeah, this will be a really fun one to watch. I'm excited to talk about this movie. So anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up. That is Action Movie Anatomy here on the Popcorn Talk Network. Be sure to follow along. Find that Facebook fan page. You can find the Twitter at AMA Podcast. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media.
You can find me at Andrew Ghai, and make sure to go and find our movie trivia Schmodo match against Late to the Party, our good friends Robert and Vanessa, and I guess we'll just see you next week.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.